Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann, and this is going to be a solo rant. Google this story right here. Walking Dead t-shirt pulled from Primark. That is Primark. If you don't know what Primark is, it is a retailer, much like Target, based in the UK. So what they were selling was a t-shirt that had the words Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, and a barbed wire baseball bat leaning across the words. If you're on top of your pop culture game, you know that that's a reference to the bat Lucille, which is swung by Negan to murder, spoiler alert, Glenn in issue 100 of The Walking Dead. But more importantly, it's the television adaptation of The Walking Dead. Before Negan smashes in, another spoiler alert, Abraham and then Glenn's brains in the season 7 premiere, he goes Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo through the group of our favorite heroes to figure out whose brains he's going to smash in. Just to, set the standard. Do some Googling on Negan. He's probably one of the coolest bad guys to come out of comic books in, forever. I associate with his mindset very much so. Leadership by example, strong acts of violence against those that break your trust, and then not harming women or children, and then murdering rapists, because he won't put up a sexual assault. But that is just some background information. That's not why I'm here today. That t-shirt that said Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, and then had Lucille, a barbed wire bat on it, was pulled from the shelves after a complaint from a minister who said that he found that shirt to be extremely offensive. Apparently, and I guess I had forgotten this was ever a thing because those of us that live in the now and not harp on the past, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo apparently at one time or another contained the words catch a nigger by the toe, not catch a tiger by the toe. But we all know it as kids as Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, catch a tiger by the toe. That's what they used on the show. The shirt was a reference to The Walking Dead. This stupid liberal jackwagon PC jihadist decided that that's offensive. It refers to the racist children's nursery rhyme, and the imagery of the barbed wire bat just promotes violence against black people. And if I was a person of color and I saw that, I'd be deeply offended knowing that it's representative of violence against our people. This guy is such a fucking idiot. It's not even funny. And this is what it's become. I've talked about this concept before. The PC liberal bleeding hearts that feel like they need to constantly police our language are ruining life for the rest of us. They're making it so difficult to even just exist. They're not going to be happy until we're all just wearing solid tan-colored bodysuits with blindfolds on so we can't see each other to no color, and we all have matching outfits so nobody feels excluded. And here's my problem with this guy. He put his own ideas about what that nursery rhyme meant into his complaint to the retailer, who then responded in kind by yanking the shirt from the shelves and apologizing. Big mistake. If you don't think you're doing anything wrong, you don't apologize. Because when you offer up those words, I'm sorry, it tells the people that cried offense that you feel you did something wrong and you got caught. As opposed to saying, oh, I guess I didn't think that anybody would take it that way because nobody's used that old phrasing of the nursery rhyme in quite some time. And more importantly, it's based upon a television program where they don't use the N-word. It gets to the point where my sensibilities are being attacked. I can't even enjoy anything anymore because you're always looking over your shoulder wondering, well, who's going to be the first to point the finger and cry foul? There's an attack on our minds when we have to deal with this level of fanaticism. I call them PC jihadists, all right? They're not even zealots. It's a jihad. It's a war on language and ideals, and you can't even think what you think or say anything anymore, because if it was ever at any time, at any point in history, spoken about or used in an alternate context that might have had a negative connotation, someone is just going to get offended for another group of people or somebody else and just lose their shit and claim, "That's offensive, how dare you?" Context is everything. It really is, especially in instances such as these, because what they should have done is educated this minister about how he's got the wrong idea about the shirt. Because people are blowing up Primark's Twitter. I myself went and sent them something saying that I thought that they're a part of the problem, not a part of the solution. Hell, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, the actor that portrays Negan on the Walking Dead television series, even tweeted out that he thought it was total crap that anybody would react this way and be so sensitive and that Primark would pull the shirt. I mean, this is fucked up for two reasons. Firstly, like I alluded to, this constant policing of our language. And people are so concerned with getting rid of negative terms or phrases that they deem offensive because they get this sick sense of accomplishment out of forcing other people to change. Like, ha, I made a positive change. No, you fucking didn't. All you did was annoy people and expose yourself to an ocean of malice on the internet. People cannot stand these liberals that are constantly policing the English language. Visit any internet chat board or a comment section about any story like this, especially this one. People are so fed up with being constantly told they're wrong, they're racist, they're insensitive. They are frothing at the mouth, and they are waiting and ready to act out. These days, it doesn't take much to get people to react violently and start trashing things and setting fires. And here you are, constantly telling them they're wrong, even if they're not even giving second thought to if you're out of line. You're just wagging an angry finger at people and telling them that they need to toe the line of your standard. And all you're doing is just inviting calamity into your proverbial doorstep. Because one of these days, someone's going to cry foul, and the fed up majority of us, because really it is the majority, are going to flip the fuck out, beat the living shit out of somebody to make an example out of them. Why don't you spend less time worried about safe spaces and eliminating hurtful words and more time with making an actual impact? What are you really doing? Are you making a difference? Are you? If there's such systemic racism out there, shouldn't you be doing more than just worrying about a t-shirt that maybe a few people take out of context and find offensive? Because here we go again. What did this minister do? He played the race card. He brought racism into it. And aren't we obsessed with color enough in this country? Being offended all the time and calling everything racist is diluting what actual racism is. This is probably the easiest time in history to be black. All the opportunities they are afforded, with the fact that there's no segregation anymore. You've got all these different programs that are there to help people of color elevate themselves. And they don't have to worry about old-timey mindsets where they're going to get chased out of a building for being black or sprayed with a fire hose for being black, had dogs sicked on them, lynched for looking at a white girl, or having the shit beaten out of them for showing up at the wrong lunch counter. I mean, segregation ended in the 1960s and people are still fucking pissing and moaning like there's all these disadvantages against blacks. Nothing in America is designed to hold down people of color anymore. If you want to talk about systematic racism, it's more like America has a problem with systematic classism, holding down the poor, not the blacks. You got the NAACP, the United Negro College Fund, and affirmative action, which shouldn't even be a thing anymore because of the fact that it disadvantages whites more than anybody. But that's the thing. It's cool to play the race card. It's cool to cry racism. It's very in vogue to be ultra-sensitive and try to waken people's minds to all these concepts that are going on around us that we don't realize how offensive they are. Well, call me unwoke because I think it's ridiculous. And as much as this t-shirt apparently offended this Methodist minister who's so concerned about the mindset and the safety of American blacks, this old nursery rhyme, I mean, talk to anybody of color in America, especially the ones you see in the news, and what are they afraid of? Being killed by the police. I can't tell you the last time I heard somebody of color say, well, the world's an awful place, especially because of, Mother Goose and all that shit. All those evil nursery rhymes that used to make light of black people suffering during slave times. But then again, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, should I? Because a week ago after the Grammys, everybody was crying racism because Beyonce didn't fucking win the Album of the Year for Lemonade, which had 82 different people with writing or production credits on the album versus Adele, who's white and, kind of writes a lot of the songs herself. But that's the mindset of people today. Too busy harping on stupid trivial shit, pushing their anti-white, cry racism agenda to try to shoehorn their will into other people's lives to get what they want. And it's the idiocy of their oversensitivity. There's people that don't want Catcher in the Rye in the libraries of these schools because of Holden Caulfield's loner negative attitude. They feel it sets a bad example because he calls people phonies and he uses potty talk. He's got a dirty mouth. Or more importantly, Mark Twain, who was an American treasure. He's a great author. He wrote very well thought out books about the status of American race relations at the time with Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. People don't want those books in the school libraries because of their abundant use of the word nigger, even though all that is being utilized for is to educate. That's what people talk like back then. So, by your logic, if people don't want books that promote old ideas that are insensitive, like, beating women and treating them like property, well, shouldn't we take all the fucking Bibles out of every library too? Because that book's got a lot of otherworldly ideals that are well past their freshness date. But I don't see you claiming that shit needs to come off the shelf, even though it's insensitive to the atheist ideals of people such as myself. Is it that hard to let people think for themselves? Now, you could be offended by a t-shirt that you think contains references to a nursery rhyme that encourages or trivializes racism. Then don't buy the fucking shirt. Vote with your dollars by not purchasing the item. And go tell people you saw it. And maybe, just maybe, someone will, take the time to explain to you what it really fucking means. You crotchety old get off my lawn type. Instead of trying to force everything to be taken away, it's insensitive. That's not funny. You're making light of racism. You're glorifying violence. Shouldn't I be the one who gets to decide that? I get to vote with my dollar. I don't need you to police the world for me and make it a big goddamn bubble-wrapped fairy tale safe space. Who elected you arbiter of my ideas? Here's a concept I want you to think about. Worry about your own damn self. And I use it all the time with the kids, pointing things out, or inmates complaining about other inmates, or staff worrying about other staff at work. And I say, worry about yourself. Let them worry about themselves. Focus on being the best you. Because what good is it going to do for you to constantly be harping on people that they need to change? They need to meet your standard. They need to share your ideals. You're never going to get everybody on the same page. And frankly, they're just going to hate you for trying to force your ideas into them. Instead of trying to point an angry finger, why don't you say, here's what I think. If you present it respectfully, maybe they'll accept what you're saying and it'll change their mind. But if you're going to try to strong-arm people with your opinion that they need to be more sensitive, you're just making yourself public enemy number one with a giant fucking invisible target on your back. And the uproar over this shirt is just the latest example this week. Fans of the show will buy the shirt in droves, but now they're not going to get to. And the few that actually had them are probably going to sell them for like 10 times the price on the internet because they're going to be such a hot item. So Primark, you failed miserably here. Hindenburg crash level failure.
You blew it!
By not saying, that's not what we meant. If you don't like the shirt, don't buy it. Here's what it is about. You had every opportunity to do this the right way. You did it the wrong way. You let the liberal PC terrorists win by yanking it from the shelf. I think it's stupid that one complaint could wield so much power. And to bring up the old-timey verbiage of the nursery rhyme because it contained the word nigger, as if nobody's ever heard nigger before. Like, I'm pretty sure people are over the word nigger now. And when I say that, I don't mean to make light of the word nigger's historical connotations. Just people don't use nigger anymore because they've realized how hurtful and stupid it is to think like that. And you're only going to get a bunch of backwater southern white supremacists that still use that word regularly. Average people today wouldn't be worried about the old-timey connotations of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, because they've got bigger fish to fry. Because they're too busy worried about just calling black people by the right name that has been acceptable lately. Nobody even knows what the fuck to call them. You get mad for saying that somebody's black. There's 3 kids across the street. 2 of them are white, 1 of them's black. Hey, look at that kid over there. I like his shoes. Which one? The black one. Well, you shouldn't mention his race. It's fucking statistical information. It's a characteristic that you would mention if you were trying to describe him to somebody. The one with the 2 ears and the eyes that look at the same direction at the same time. The tallest one of the 3. Oh, you mean the black kid? Oh, we shouldn't say that. We wouldn't want him to get offended that he's black. You can't call him black. He's not African American because his fucking ancestors are so far removed generationally from actually being from Africa that they were all born stateside the last 3 generations. And you can't say Negro. I mean, I guess once upon a time ago, Negro was an offensive term, but why can't we say Negro now? Just say it's not offensive anymore. We don't mean it that way. Segregation ended many years ago. So we can't say the word Negro still. But yet it's called the United Negro College Fund. Here we go. Double standard. And I tweeted at the United Negro College Fund saying, hey, if the word Negro is so offensive, isn't it time to change the name of your organization? Still haven't heard back from those jackwagons. And it's not that I'm trying to be an asshole, but if you're going to insist upon forcing unto the minds of everyone around you your idiotic liberal double standards, why can't we give it back to you? Because if I cried foul about certain aspects of names, phrases, imagine if I went to the grocery store and I flipped my lid over the fact that the box says saltine crackers, and cracker is a pejorative term for a white person that black people use. Maybe they should be salted wheat crisps. Maybe we should be writing a petition to Nabisco to stop utilizing such hurtful terms because it belittles and demeans white people.
You got to be kidding me.
At what point does it fucking stop? It's so out of hand already. I'm not alone. The fact that there's news stories galore about this shirt, but every comment in the comments section is about how fucking ridiculous this is. So what I don't understand is if a disproportionate amount of people think that it's not racist and get what is meant, why is the retailer apologizing? Why the fuck are they backpedaling, pulling the shirt, losing money, and kowtowing to this dipshit liberal extremist? And the most facetious part about these liberal arguments, these sensitivity arguments, being told that all this language is inappropriate, this imagery is inappropriate, is they'll say, well, you're just upset that you're not allowed to so freely express your hurtful ideas anymore. Well, that's not it at all. It's that such a minute segment of the population is dictating how the rest of us are allowed to live and what's acceptable. And unfortunately, we have a severe lack of spine in our government leadership these days because they know that, well, if they don't bow down to the will of the PC liberal agenda, that they're going to get voted out of office, or they must think they are. I don't know. You bend to the will because you're afraid of losing that power. People that have power, they don't want to give up that power, so they just keep going, yes, we'll do that. Retailers like Primark are like, yes, we'll take it off the shelf because we could potentially lose money. Why don't you just fucking roll the dice? I mean, you've been getting by this long, doing what you're doing. Why change because of one stupid idiot? Do you think Sherwin-Williams would stop selling white paint if people said that that was racist. Is that what you want? Everything should be white. It's such a neat and clean color. Because you go into a lot of houses that are for sale, what color do they paint the house before they move out? White. Because it's basic, it's acceptable to everybody, and it's easily paintable over. But imagine if a paint retailer stopped manufacturing white paint. It's like the basis for everything. They just add other dyes to it to make different colors. Imagine if somebody started a grassroots campaign against the Tasty Bread Company because of all the white bread that they sell. Because white bread is so bountiful, cheap, and readily available. Well, how come the white bread has all the advantages over the other breads? What about if somebody wants a good marble rye? It costs extra. Well, who gives a shit? That's fucking stupid. But I guarantee it's going to get to that. And the rest of the world sees this, and they think Americans are getting soft. We're weak. We're ripe for the plucking by China and Russia. You think Putin's got people breathing down his neck about changing anything? Jesus Christ, they still openly encourage the murder of homosexuals over there.
Hi.
So, the last thing I want to throw out there is, think about this. Al Bundy, one of the most iconic TV dads of all time. Do you think Married with Children would be acceptable on the air today? Oh my Christ, it would be so fucking canceled after 5 minutes, it's not even funny. His constantly harping on fat broads, or making fun of his dingbat domesticated wife, or the dumb blonde bimbo character that Kelly Bundy was, or the pussy-chasing white suburban know-it-all punk kid emulating black culture that was Bud Bundy. The fact that Al was constantly ripping on Marcy Darcy for looking like a bird and not being enough of a woman. The feminists would have a field day with that shit. But you know what? It's honestly one of the funniest fucking shows that was ever on. The 80s were the greatest time for creativity. The 90s were the greatest time for just getting it off your chest and taking chances and challenging people's thinking and making fun of it. Now, do you think because Al Bundy used to mock fat women that everybody decided that fat women weren't worth a shit? No. People were still falling in love with and marrying women who were a little bit bigger than what was considered beautiful or the norm. Just like freaking out over a t-shirt for The Walking Dead isn't going to stop people from deciding things by saying, Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by his toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann. And that's the end.
Pissing our pants yet? Boy, do I have a feeling we're getting close.